Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Thursday, October 30th, 2025. I'm Mayoral Lewis. There are only 3 days left in early voting. As a reminder, the polls will open tomorrow starting at 8 a.m. and they'll be open through Sunday. Nearly 400,000 New Yorkers have already cast their ballots. Meanwhile, with all polls showing a large lead in the race for mayor in the hands of Zohran Mamdani, the three major candidates who are in the race for mayor tried to ignore the numbers and focus on getting more voters out to the polls. Our Ayanna Harry was out on the campaign trail today and joins us now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. From subway stations to senior centers tonight, all three candidates in the race for mayor have the same exact mission: get out the vote.
Polls give us a snapshot in time. It's great when there's a good one. It's, we look past it when there's a bad one.
Focused on the finish line. Three polls released within 24 hours all show Democrat Zohran Mamdani with a commanding lead in the race for mayor, including this poll from Emerson College, which found Mamdani has support from 50% of likely voters. Still, the Democrat says this isn't time to celebrate. It's time to work.
Get out there and actually make the case to New Yorkers.
Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo both insisted the numbers may not add up.
I don't believe any of the polls. I think the polls have no idea what they're talking about because they have never seen this kind of turnout before.
With Thursday's early voting numbers now in, the number of New Yorkers who've gone to the polls before Election Day rose to nearly 400,000. Earlier in the day, in a Midtown subway station, Curtis Sliwa said he's encouraged by the strong turnout so far.
I just want to encourage as many people to vote as possible.
And throughout the day Thursday, all three leading City Hall contenders spent time working to win over last-minute votes. In Fort Greene, Brooklyn,
How are you?
Mamdani sat down with older adults, listened to their stories, and spoke of his vision for a more affordable New York City.
Here today with a vision of this city that looks to honor those of you who have given so much of yourself to this home of all of ours for so long, and yet what you have been rewarded with is the most expensive city in the United States of America.
And at the King House's Senior Center in Harlem, Mayor Eric Adams was back on the campaign trail, stumping for Andrew Cuomo, as Cuomo received the endorsement of several African and Muslim leaders. Cuomo spoke of the need to reject hate in New York City, and he slammed Mamdani's signature campaign proposals, saying there is no Santa Claus.
The mayor cannot freeze the rent. He can't. It's not real. There's no legal way to do it.
And Andrew Cuomo will be spending some time tomorrow in the Russian-speaking community of Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. Many Russian Americans there. He'll also be meeting with Republican council member Ina Vernikov, Errol.
So there is something to be said for the fact that there are a lot of people turning out. The problem is we don't have anything really to compare it to because this is only the second time we've had early voting for mayor.
This is only the second time we've had early voting for mayor. And 2021, we were still pretty much in the thick of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so some people were still hesitant. Many people at that time opted to vote by mail. So we don't quite know how the overall numbers will turn out. And perhaps just more people will vote early as opposed to Election Day. And we'll see the same level of turnout. Or we could break records. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, yeah, and whether it breaks a record or not, to be closing in on 400,000 plus out of what could be maybe only 2 million who vote in total is really a pretty good sign.
It's really a pretty good sign, and it shows what I've seen when I'm out on the campaign trail, which is that New Yorkers are paying attention to this race. They have been following it closely, and they all seem like they want to weigh in. These are very different candidates: Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa. And so New Yorkers have their opportunity to select really who might lead New York City forward. And these three different leaders have very different visions for the city.
And, we've seen from the Mamdani campaign working with the DSA, they have a very sort of structured, disciplined campaign of door knocking, trying to reach particular voters. When Andrew Cuomo went to, say, talk with some of these religious leaders up in Harlem, did they also sort of have an apparatus in place to try and channel people to their voting?
So he met at the King Center, the King Towers Community Center, the Senior Center. So there were people there who were actually dressed up for Halloween. So they were enjoying their own celebration, getting ready for lunch. And they were able to greet Andrew Cuomo and take a large group picture with him. But I did not see Cuomo then go over to the King houses and begin knocking on doors or speaking to any of the other people who live there. I mean, it was raining, but the houses are indoors. But yeah, we did not see that outreach take place.
Okay, stay right there, Ayanna. I want to bring in our Courtney Gross, who was on the campaign trail with Mamdani today. for some more analysis. Good evening, Courtney.
Good evening, Errol. We were with Zohran Mamdani in Brooklyn at a senior center there, and he obviously was talking about those poll numbers, saying that he's not going to take anything for granted, but going to, continue doing the work, continue going out. Obviously, his get out the vote operation was what was to be rivaled during the primary, and we're waiting to see what that might look like. Interesting, he's not done for the day. We know that he likes to have some gimmicky things, gimmicky press conferences. There was a scavenger hunt. There was a soccer game at one point. And tonight he's actually going to be holding a midnight press conference. And it's specifically geared towards workers who don't have traditional hours, that don't necessarily work 9 to 5. And it's going to be geared towards hospital workers and airport workers in particular. I won't be there, but we will have a camera.
Reporters don't work at midnight.
No, I'll be sleeping, but we will most likely have a camera there, hopefully.
Oh, very interesting. Well, yeah, those third shift workers really are, sort of an important part of life in New York. And some of them will, in fact, probably be coming off their shift and going straight to their voting spot.
Yeah, that's the point. And I think he's trying to show, that he is potentially going to be a mayor for all people, whether you're voting for him or supporting him or not supporting him. And especially, talking to workers who don't work traditional hours, who might be living paycheck to paycheck, who don't necessarily have the fancy apartment in Manhattan and, work these tough jobs in the middle of the night, keeping New Yorkers safe, making sure our airports are running, and trying to obviously win over those votes, too.
I know that you've looked at the numbers when we get them from the Board of Elections each day, and you can sort of do a quick analysis of where people are voting, why, well, the why we can't really know, but where they're voting, who they are, how old they are, what their various characteristics are. What have you seen so far?
Yeah, so over the course that we get these big spreadsheets with, tens of thousands of lines from the Board of Elections, a line for every single person that has voted, and we can quickly take a look at where they're going, where they're coming from, what precincts. We've seen consistently that the highest turnout precincts have been the Upper West and the Upper East Side. Not surprising. We know that voters, a lot of them do come from there. But what everyone's focused on, everyone in media and elsewhere, are really interested in the demographic data, and the piece of demographic data we do get from these big spreadsheets from the Board of Elections is age. And what we just looked at is that through the 6 days of early voting that we've had thus far, 50% of the people that have turned out are over the age of 55. We've consistently been seeing in the polls that older voters do tend to like Andrew Cuomo a little bit more. But, the polls have also said that Zohran Mamdani is ahead by double digits. Whether you believe it's 10, 16, or 25 is depending on the poll that you want to believe at that particular moment.
What's interesting about that is the composition of the entire voting pool is what matters. And traditionally, it's the older voters who form something like 60% of the turnout. So 50% is nice, but 60% would be nicer if you're Andrew Cuomo.
Yes, but Zohran Mamdani certainly shifted the numbers dramatically during the Democratic primary when he had that large turnout from younger voters. I went to Bushwick just after primary day and spoke with so many of these young voters. These are people who weren't even registered to vote, hadn't really thought about it, and then they were, they made contact with someone from the Mamdani campaign. That encouraged them to register to vote. That encouraged them to go out and get active and to bring their friends to the polls. So if Mamdani does continue to bring that kind of ground game and that kind of mobilization to Election Day, it could bode well for him, and the outpouring that we're seeing so far from voters over 50 may not make that big of a difference for Andrew Cuomo.
And when it comes to Curtis Sliwa, it tends to be older voters who know who he is, because he's been in public life for about 50 years now.
Yeah, I think what we've seen is that the people who are supporting Curtis Sliwa are very, very loyal. But that being said, some of the polling we've seen over the last couple of days shows that Republicans in particular, a majority of Republicans are actually supporting Andrew Cuomo. And I think that's indicative of how resonant his message has been on his closing remarks, honestly, in the final days of this campaign, really geared very much so to Republicans.
It wasn't that easy to find his name on the ballot, I have to say. As an independent candidate,
Yeah.
It's, there's Democrats, there's Republicans, and then you have to kind of look around to find where Andrew Cuomo was. Thank you both very much. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll head to Queens, where incumbent Vicky Palladino seeks to defend her city council seat, and there's a newcomer in the race. We'll tell you all about it in just a minute. Also tonight, CUNY Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez will be here in studio to talk about efforts to help students receive employment and much more. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino, a Trump-supporting Republican from Queens, is hoping to get reelected. She is arguing that the money and projects that she's brought to the district means she should get reelected. She also runs a social media account that is filled with right-wing commentary. Now, her Democratic opponent is a young firefighter who is new to politics. Our Dan Rivoli visited the district and joins us now with a closer look at this race. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. So an interesting partisan breakdown. Democrats make up about just under half of the registered voters in the district, and they are outnumbered by Republicans and independents together. Palladino is hoping that her record of bringing money back to the district will outshine her hard-right commentary on social media, while a young firefighter is looking to unseat her, bringing a new vision to the district. City Council member Vicky Palladino, a Republican, greeting volunteers, phone banking for early voting. Her office filled with memorabilia from campaigns past.
This is me getting it done. I talked about the $250 million infrastructure project in College Point.
Projects like that give Palladino confidence in winning re-election in Council District 19, covering Queens neighborhoods Whitestone, Bay Terrace, and Auburndale.
And we got it done. And the guys on the job knew me. The contractors knew me. And it was just, hey, Vic, how you doing? I'm doing all right. How are you doing? And walking.
Or funding for a new courtyard at a local school, which had this assistant principal beaming.
We just had some beautiful trees planted, and Vicky has done so much for our school.
We're talking about local politics here. We're talking about quality of life issues here. Basic, everyday stuff.
Her Democratic opponent.
How are you? Hi. Benjamin Chu, running for City Council.
Benjamin Chu, 34 years old, a firefighter.
The three major issues on platform that we're trying to present: rebuilding a sense of community in the district, increasing public safety, and increasing affordability.
And a first-time candidate. This retired teacher who told New York when she voted for Chu told him her concerns with the future of gifted education.
We're gonna look into that. I wonder what the funding ratio is to special ed.
Why don't you find out?
I will, yeah. I'm gonna look into it.
One of Chu's innovative ideas on crime, giving residents motion sensor lights.
Study shows that Increased lighting decreases nighttime crime by 34%.
Palladino, who's got police union support,
Oh, there's my truck.
touted a new satellite police precinct.
That means I have 55 additional police officers here.
It's an old school style of politics, but Palladino is also a poster, like President Trump, firing off hard-right missives on social media.
It stirs conversation, doesn't it?
Chu disagrees.
Her narrative and rhetoric is on a different, it's different than mine. Let's go with that.
Palladino says she keeps an open door for anyone, especially Democrats.
I wanted my Democrat friends to get to know me. And they did. There was always a pot of coffee on. There was always conversation.
Democrats whose votes Palladino wants.
And I asked the candidates who they are supporting for mayor. Vicky Palladino is sticking with Curtis Sliwa, even though some of her Republican colleagues are saying that it's okay to vote for Cuomo if you're a Republican. Chu said he hasn't made up his mind on who he's going to vote for when I spoke to him just yesterday, Errol.
Is Mr. Chu supported by the Democratic establishment in Queens?
It didn't appear so. You know, he had some volunteers there, but he had his palm cards out. But look, I think this is a race for Palladino to lose. In fact, when I asked for the interview and I said we're covering competitive races here, she said, why do you think this is competitive? But he's out there on the early voting site.
And he's an FDNY firefighter, you said. I guess he had to get a leave of absence to do all of this.
He says when he's off his shifts, he goes right back and tries to meet voters and is hitting up the early voting sites.
Okay, well, yeah, we're always encouraging people to get involved, especially young people, so good for him.
Yeah.
All right, thanks very much, Dan. While all 51 city council seats are up for grabs this year, there will be little suspense on election night in many cases. That's because almost 1/3 of those council races are uncontested. The same goes for the race for Brooklyn District Attorney. Our Bobby Kuza has more on that. Good evening, Bobby.
Good evening, Errol. And as you know, most council districts in the city are overwhelmingly Democratic. Also a handful of red districts, but not a lot of purple ones, right? So we often have competitive primaries in the council. We don't have a lot of competitive general elections, and that is the case again this year. Just a handful of closely contested races this November.
A handful of city council races are hotly contested this election season. There's outgoing Councilman Justin Brannon's seat in South Brooklyn, featuring his staffer, Democrat Kayla Santasuoso, against Republican George Sarantopoulos. Then there's Bronx Republican Christy Marmorato, who's trying to fend off Democrat Shirley Aldebal. And two of Queens Councilman Robert Holden's own staffers are vying to succeed him, Democrat Phil Wong and Republican Alicia Vachunas. But beyond that, few council races are even remotely competitive this November.
Many districts are very comfortable with their representation. I would like to think that representatives are doing their jobs and that that constituents are happy.
Of 51 city council districts, 16 races are uncontested. It's partly a function of party enrollment. In Democrat Sandy Nurse's Brooklyn district, Republicans make up just 6% of registered voters.
The fact that many council members don't have a general election opponent shows that New York City remains a Democratic stronghold.
But it's not just Democrats. Republican Ina Vernikov is running unopposed in her South Brooklyn district, which went heavily for Donald Trump last year. And no Democrat is challenging Republican Joanne Areola in her Queens district, which Trump also won.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Democrats actually outnumber Republicans more than 2-to-1 in Areola's district. But she says it's all about effectiveness, not ideology.
Are we making sure that there are no potholes? Are we making sure that you're getting answered quickly when you call the office? It's accountability. And I think that's what makes me a popular council member. And I think that's why I did not have an opponent 2 cycles in a row.
The lack of competitive council elections is not a sign of an unhealthy democracy, according to Nurse, who says it's given her more time and energy to do her job.
Campaigning aggressively and governing is almost impossible, and you have to split your time. You're working 80 hours a week in your council position, and then you're campaigning. It depletes you.
Bronx Democrat Pierina Sanchez also has no Republican opponent, which she attributes in part to weak Republican Party leadership. The difference in her case, Sanchez faced a robust primary challenge from former councilman Fernando Cabrera.
I think it's much more problematic in districts where there is no contest, not in the primary and not in the general. And I do think that is bad for democracy. every elected official should have to, go before their voters and speak to what they have or have not been doing.
Another high-ranking elected official who's guaranteed re-election is Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez, who hasn't faced a single opponent in any primary or general election since first winning office in 2017.
Obviously, a lot of criticism of prosecutors here in the city for the way that they're prosecuting various low-level crimes, and yet there is no one challenging Eric Gonzalez, right, in spite of all that criticism. So a lot of races where Republicans aren't even trying, including there's one race out in Southeast Queens that was an open seat. This is where Adrienne Adams was the councilwoman. There's a Democratic primary. Somebody emerged from that race, and he's uncontested. There's no Republican even trying to win that open seat. There's also some races where there's a Democrat running and either a conservative party candidate or someone from some other independent third party, no Republican running. So not going to be a lot of suspense on election night.
Do you get the sense that there's some kind of détente or even implicit or even explicit arrangement in some of these districts where it's kind of like, well, we won't run anybody against your candidate, you don't run anybody against ours?
I think that there may be some of that happening behind the scenes. I'm not really privy to it firsthand. But remember, I mean, in some parts of the city, the Republican Party is so weak, I don't even know if they have the leverage to sort of negotiate for that sort of thing. A couple people raised to me also this question of open primaries, which was actually raised by the Charter Revision Commission, and they thought about putting it on the ballot this year, where you have, anybody from any party runs in the primary, maybe you have the top two in the general. That would completely change the landscape. But for now, this is the system that we have. And also remember, because of redistricting, the council, these members actually had to run in 2023. Just 2 years ago, there was that weird cycle where they had to run 2 years. So there has been some fatigue, and they say, it may be a relief to not have to run.
Yeah, that might be what we're seeing here because of the after 2020, there was new lines drawn, right, and then they had to run again. And so if you just lost 2 years ago, do you really want to try it all over again?
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot, it takes a lot of time to fundraise. I think members are relieved not to spend so much of their time doing it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bobby. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, President Trump says that he wants the United States to resume testing nuclear weapons. We'll bring you a report from Washington, D.C. in 2 minutes. Stay with us. This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual. When I come home and a few generations. You're always there. And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first, stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. President Donald Trump has announced that he wants the United States to resume testing nuclear weapons, something the government has not done for 33 years. The president's comments have touched off concern about nuclear proliferation, with some experts warning that it would take years to resume testing and that there is no need to. Spectrum News national political reporter Taylor Popolars has the latest from the White House. Good evening, Taylor.
Hey there, Errol. Needless to say, this story raised a lot of eyebrows, not only in America, but across the world, because no one was expecting to hear President Trump weigh in on this, especially while he was overseas touring Asia. He explained a bit more about what he meant after an initial social media post, but experts tell us it still doesn't necessarily match up. Minutes before he met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea on Thursday, President Donald Trump posted something that got the world's attention. Because of other countries' testing programs, he wrote, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately. Trump said later that he simply wants to catch up to adversaries like Russia and China.
We don't do testing, and we've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
But experts say there's no evidence that Russia or China has been testing nuclear weapons. In fact, no country besides North Korea has conducted nuclear tests since the 1990s, honoring a test ban treaty.
It's worth pointing out, though, the U.S. really doesn't need to return to nuclear testing. We have conducted more tests than any other country. We have lots of test data.
Heather Williams studies nuclear weapons and says the president's phrasing was vague and notable, that he mentioned the Defense Department or what he calls the War Department.
He could have meant literal testing of nuclear weapons, which would be the responsibility of the Department of Energy. But if he meant testing of nuclear-capable platforms, delivery vehicles, bombers, cruise missiles, anything like that, that would be more in the realm of the Pentagon's responsibilities, which to me suggests that might be what he meant by it.
Williams says Russia and China have been growing their nuclear arsenals faster than the U.S. in recent years, and they've recently tested new vehicles to carry those weapons. She says the global response to Trump threatening actual nuclear testing will be worth watching.
The international community really sees this as a religion in some ways, that you cannot possibly go back to this. And so I would expect, and I think we're already seeing some pushback on the president's statement.
Now, I learned a lot from Heather Williams. She really knows her stuff. And something interesting she pointed out is that if we actually do resume testing at a test site that's in Nevada, it could be up to 36 months before the test can actually be completed. So the idea of President Trump ordering this to happen immediately just doesn't match up. And if the testing takes place, there are still health concerns in that part of the country from when the tests were taking place decades ago. So it's unlikely we would see an above-ground explosion into a mushroom cloud. All of this would happen underground if it ends up happening at all. Errol?
As signatories to a test ban treaty, aren't we prohibited by law from doing some of these things, Taylor?
That is technically correct. It's interesting. This treaty was signed by former President Bill Clinton back in the 90s. It was never ratified by the U.S. Senate, but it's something that the U.S. has been acknowledging, and all these other countries except for North Korea. And today, Russia and China officials there indicated that if the U.S. broke this treaty, then they would start doing their own testing. But Heather Williams did tell me that technically there are lab versions of testing that can be done with nuclear material that technically could be violating that treaty if you do that. And there are questions about whether Russia and China are already doing that. That maybe is what President Trump was alluding to, and maybe the U.S. would try to match it. But that's what's confusing in terms of the vagueness of his overall statement.
Okay. Thank you for shedding some light on that, Taylor. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, I'll be joined in studio by Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez of the City University. We're going to talk about his State of the University speech that was delivered last night. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Bergman.
To Catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on The Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The City University of New York wants to make sure that more students find jobs after graduating and has acknowledged that graduating with a degree, while fantastic, is not always enough to ensure success in the workforce. The Chancellor of CUNY delivered his annual State of the University address last night, where he talked about this subject and unveiled a plan that is being hailed as the nation's most ambitious career initiative. It's called CUNY Beyond, and the initiative aims to triple the number of students in paid internships and accelerate employer recruitment by 20%. Here to talk about the details about how all of this can work and much more, we've got the CUNY Chancellor, Felix Matos Rodriguez. Welcome back to the program. Always good to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Let's start with some of the overall aspects and some of the good news. You said that 8,000 new students have joined CUNY this fall. That makes about 20,000 since 2022. So we're on the way back from the dip after the pandemic.
Absolutely. It's 3 years in a row of enrollment growth, and we're very proud of that work. We want to continue to do more. It's a combination of doing more work with the New York City public schools, the welcome letters that we've been doing, getting early to those students, getting them doing this month. There's no application fee, so all the seniors out there, it's your chance to apply to CUNY. This year, we also individualized the letter, and if you have some college credits that you earn working through college now, your letter would tell you that. And that's kind of like a scholarship money. It's money in the bank for you. And then also programs like CUNY Reconnect. We had a version with funding from the city and then funding from the governor with the Free Community College for associate's degree. So all those things I think have been helping us to bring those numbers back up.
Yeah, let's say another word about those seniors. For the 3rd consecutive year, 70,000 seniors, you said, got personalized welcome to CUNY email messages telling them they've already got some credits and they can apply for free to one of the 19 undergraduate colleges.
It's been a great success in the past 3 years. This year we did the email because it allowed that much level of individualized information for the student. We're also sending it to their parents and their caregivers. I can give you a couple of examples of students who are now in some community colleges that forgot to apply, forgot all those things, and their parents found the letter in the summer and they ran out and they're in school right now because of that.
Fantastic. Okay, so now let's talk about CUNY Beyond. It starts with, you mentioned in the speech last night, only a quarter of CUNY students are using the campus career services, and that's a national trend. Young people, I guess, just don't do this.
If it's optional, Errol, not every student does it, right? And the one thing that every student does is go to class and connect with a teacher. So what we're trying to do is bring that connection between the academic rigor that we bring and thinking about career exploration, thinking about earn and learn opportunities. So you go have an internship and apply some other things to learn. So we have done a number of pilots that have shown incredible results. We have 5 buckets that of programming for each campus. And what we're going to say is that within 5 years, every CUNY campus is going to be doing this so that the students are thinking about careers the moment they step into the campus.
Okay, so you're starting with Lehman, LaGuardia, Hunter, and BMCC. That's about 55,000 undergraduates. What will they be doing? What will be different than what goes on now?
So AIR, first, early exposure. So any orientation you get at the beginning is going to point you to the direction of where the services are. We're working with faculty, too. We have an army of career success fellows in every discipline who have been saying, no matter what you teach, you can be pointing to students' skills that they're learning in your class and things that they can be doing to improve. We have industry specialists in some departments, creating the internships, creating the partnerships, updating the curriculum, career-infused maps. So when you sit with your advisor, it's not just about journalism 101, journalism 202. It's going to be you doing that, but what other things are you doing to have you updated your resume? Have you opened your handshake account? Are you applying for internships? Have you been thinking? So all those things, and we have data within CUNY of pilots that show greater retention. The students who participate go out there and get jobs faster, and the first-time pay is higher. So we want to do that not just for small programs in different campuses. We want every student to participate in that, and we have a 5-year plan to do that.
Okay. I see that your estimate over the 5 years would be $3.3 billion in future wage growth and a $700 million return on public investment, meaning every dollar that the city puts into this, you'll get back more in the form of somebody who's earning more and paying more.
Earning more, paying more taxes, less dependent on public assistance, all the things that we know are true of a higher ed. But now, hopefully, you're going to be in a career in which you go into a field that you study journalism, you end up getting a job in journalism. Not like we see now in which students do get the degree, but then they go to industries in which there's not really what they were hoping for. And in part, it's because we didn't do such a good job at connecting them with those opportunities. We want that for you to have a direction, have as much exposure as you can. And we've seen that industry is clamoring for the talent that we have at CUNY. It's talent that knows New York, represents our diversity, all the things that are great about the city.
I saw you're working with the New York Job CEO Council, which is 27 of the biggest private sector employers. They've hired nearly 10,000 CUNY graduates over the last 5 years, you said, which sounds like a big number, but they could probably do more.
Oh, absolutely. And we intend, and we're going to make it difficult for them not to hire students because they're going to have much more exposure via internships, curriculum that has been vetted with them. So we want to make sure that industry knows that they can partner with us at CUNY, and the more exposed they get to our talent, the more that they're convinced about the product that we have in our great students.
I've been teaching at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism for about 15 years now. I'm looking forward to the next semester. It's always a lot of fun. But I'm always amazed because you had some ups and downs over these last 4 years with the Adams administration where there were years when the budget was cut. My understanding is that about 400 community college professors kind of just went away. They went and found work elsewhere because of the uncertainty of the funding flow. And we've certainly talked with the head of the union about that and so forth. What is it that stops the political class from understanding that a dollar invested in CUNY will bring back more than a dollar to the city of New York?
Well, this comprehensive plan would make it very, very clear that this is what the students are clamoring for. They want to be exposed to the world. They want to do all the things that college brings, but they want to be able to see a job or a job opportunity at the end of the journey. So do their parents, right? So I think that this is going to be a far more formidable way for us to let people know the great investment that CUNY is. Some of the funding for the pilots that I mentioned to you came from funding from the city and from the state. We're also seeking philanthropic dollars to be able to do that. So when we go asking for additional dollars to the city or additional dollars to the state, they also see that we're bringing in the money from philanthropy. And that should also become easier the more that companies see the value in a CUNY education. So, we're getting ready for the transition to new administration. We'll make our case to whoever the New Yorkers decide to endorse in the election, and we look forward to working with them.
One of the statistics I came across recently is the, to me, surprisingly low percentage of adult Black and Latino New Yorkers who do not have a college degree. No. And I understand there's a lot of different reasons some people will start and they'll stop, and you've got programs to try and recover some of those credits and help people complete a full-fledged degree. But is that on your radar as a goal for CUNY?
So absolutely, because the intentionality in this career exploration will help bring a lot of those people back, because some of the things that pan out is that, if first in your family you're the first one to go to college, that connection might not be as self-evident as others, right? The more that we show you a concrete roadmap, the more that we make it easy for you to navigate work, the more that we give you social capital, experience, networks, mentors, the more that you're going to be able to see a path for yourself in any kind of industry, and that will particularly help our students of color.
Okay, the fall semester is off to a rip-roaring start, it sounds like. Thanks so much for coming by.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a short break now. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at the role of public health in the race for mayor. I'll be joined by our national health reporter, Erin Billups. Stay with us.
The next downtown local 6 train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching. Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Today marks the 30th day of the government shutdown. Democrats continue to fight to extend subsidies for health care plans under the Affordable Care Act, while Republicans are holding out against any extensions. Here in New York, both the battle over those subsidies and the shutdown itself have had widespread effects on the public health of millions. It is not the first time that an incoming mayor will be up against a massive public health challenge, of course. 4 years ago, Mayor Adams came into office in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. The challenges may be different today, but they still impact everybody in New York. National Health reporter Erin Billups joins me now to talk more about this. Good evening, Erin.
Good evening. You know, we probably haven't heard much about public health during the campaign because
two of the most powerful forces that control healthcare are controlled by the federal government. But as you mentioned, there's a sunset to these subsidies for the ACA, and there were also massive changes in that one big beautiful bill that changes eligibility for Medicaid. So a lot of people are not going to have care. I spoke to the Commonwealth Fund about this. Here's what Dr. Tony Shea had to say.
We anticipate about 850,000 people losing Medicaid and becoming uninsured in New York State alone. And then on top of that, if with the expiration of the enhanced premium subsidies, analysis from the Commonwealth Fund shows that about 27,000 people in New York State will lose marketplace coverage and remain uninsured.
You know, the mayor, though, does have some power, and the power that he has can help to buffer the changes or the lack of funding that we're getting from the federal government, and that is the city-run hospital system and the city health department. And depending on their plan of how they plan to finance those departments, who they put in charge of those departments, it can make a huge difference in how New Yorkers fare.
What I keep hearing is that there's a risk that the public system will be overrun, that a lot of people will lose their Affordable Care Act subsidies, will lose their health insurance, and will show up essentially empty-handed, meaning without any insurance behind them, at the front door of one of our public hospitals.
Yeah. So one of the things that Dr. Shea mentioned is the New York City Cares program has been sort of this safety net insurance program for undocumented immigrants and other people who, for some reason or other, couldn't get plans off of the marketplace, don't have employer coverage. That might be an area where a future mayor might want to throw more money into to try and catch New Yorkers who are no longer insured by the marketplace, who don't have employer-based insurance, because you want to get those people into primary care. You want them, getting preventative screenings to take some of the burden off of the hospitals, because our hospital systems, the city-run hospital system, are the safety net. Mm-hmm. That's where people, when they don't have care or insurance, they go there for their health emergencies, which are much more expensive. And when we have, chronic diseases that are not controlled, they're ending up in the hospital in these emergent situations needing very costly care.
We've had, COVID was the most serious, but we've had one epidemic after another, right? We've dealt with Legionnaire's disease and SARS and all of these different things. It did not get talked about during the campaign. I would have loved to ask a question during the recent debate, but we didn't have time. But it's not on their websites as far as how to restock the PPE and put the protocols in place for the next pandemic, because there will be a next pandemic.
There will likely be a next pandemic, and because of what we're seeing in terms of this rollback in funding for equity programs, a lot of that funding was headed to the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene in New York City, and that money was used for disease surveillance and staying on top of HIV cases and surveying that so that we could get into the neighborhoods where they started to see cases ticking up and control it. So this next mayor is going to have to think about how do I fund the Department of Health and make sure that we are staying on top of all of these things, that our disaster plan is in place. So it's going to be a really tough time. This is a major issue. And also, the funding for these equity programs will likely hit the Department of Health, which its focus has been on health equity. Like, I live on the Upper East Side, go 10 blocks up to East Harlem, your life expectancy is 8 years shorter. It's a really huge problem in New York City from neighborhood to neighborhood. There are very healthy people, and then there are a lot of unhealthy people. So those programs need to keep going in order to try and level the playing field in terms of health. So there's a lot to do on the health front.
In our last minute, this mayor had talked about dealing with the chronic diseases, the metabolic syndromes, the things like the diseases that are lifestyle diseases that you can change with diet, exercise, a deeper understanding, an education campaign. Is that something where the next mayor should be putting some more effort as well?
I mean, absolutely, because if it's preventative, right? If we are helping to educate the public more and making it more accessible for healthy foods, that's going to help to make people healthier. One expert I spoke to from the CUNY School of Public Health, Mr. Nevin Cohen, he pointed out that Mamdani's plan for grocery stores, it's one of the few sort of health adjacent plans that were out there, is sort of one of those social determinants of health plans. If we make food cheaper, healthy food cheaper, whole foods cheaper, then people are more likely to get a hold of good food that's good for their bodies and keeps them healthy. So that could be a really good area to focus in on, and maybe not as expensive as some other things.
Well, hopefully we'll see more of this conversation during the transition after we select a new mayor next week. Thanks so much, Erin. We are going to take a break now. When we come back, New Yorkers get a chance to weigh in on multiple ballot measures, including one that would align mayoral races with the presidential races. We'll explain why in a report straight ahead. Stay with us. Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Flores Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get up to 4 months free when you bundle award-winning internet. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. In addition to selecting a new mayor on Election Day next week, New York voters are also weighing in on several major ballot proposals. 3 of them concern housing, and they've received a lot of attention, but there were 2 others that have not gotten as much notice. One of them concerns state land nearly 300 miles away from the city, while another would start the process of changing our election calendar. State House reporter Bernadette Hogan has that story.
A ski trail? There are enough places that they don't have to take parkland away to do that. And I voted no on that.
Someone from Lake Placid could be voting on my issues, and we don't relate.
On November 4th, voters across the state will decide whether they'll approve a ballot proposal aimed at letting the state government convert woods into ski trails in rural Essex County.
Does it mean we're going to lose trails here?
No.
Well, then I don't know why we're voting for it, but, you know, I would be okay with them getting some more trails. I like trails. You know, I think it's good to walk. It's good to hike. If they get some more trails, I'm fine for that, as long as it doesn't mean we have to close Central Park because we can't afford to have both.
It lets New York's Olympic Regional Development Authority build on 350 acres worth of protected forest near Lake Placid, requiring the state to purchase 2,500 acres to give back. But there's a catch. It's asking voters to greenlight construction that already happened, starting in 2021.
We had discovered mid-construction that they were doing things on state land that were not permitted by the Constitution.
The 6 million acre Adirondack Forest Preserve is protected by the state constitution under the Forever Wild Clause. Environmental advocate John Sheehan said cutting down trees for ski trails and a storage shed was a problem, but he helped strike a bargain, a constitutional amendment.
That would give us the opportunity to not only clean up the past constitutional violations, but also make sure that nothing like that happened again in the future.
City voters get a say because all constitutional changes require a vote by state residents.
In many cases, it is hard to distinguish this Olympic property from the forest preserve around it.
Another ballot proposal would change city elections held during odd years, like mayor, comptroller, and public advocate, to even years, when presidential and gubernatorial elections are held.
The origin of this election calendar is actually in trying to defeat Tammany Hall, the old party machine.
Advocates say it'll save the city and state money by consolidating elections. And most importantly,
we've seen several states do that, and what we've seen in all these places, that voter turnout for local offices doubles, or sometimes even more than doubles.
If passed, the state legislature must still approve a new law 2 years in a row, signed by the governor. Then it'll go again to voters statewide as a constitutional amendment.
We will draw a much younger electorate, and an electorate that is much more representative of the city as a whole. So the largest benefits will go to communities of color and to younger voters.
A separate measure consolidating odd and even year elections for offices outside the 5 boroughs was already approved by the state legislature, but opposed by Republicans who argue it will grant Democrats an advantage. Bernadette Hogan, New York 1.
That's going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
That's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s. But showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Flores Fire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street, she was like, wait a minute, how are you still online? And I was like, Spectrum, baby. You gotta get Spectrum.
Get award-winning internet for your business. Up to 4 months free when bundled. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.